Alina sat on the edge of a worn-out bed in her modest dorm room, her gaze fixed on a glass where dried petals of a wilted daisy floated. It was the only decoration in her space. Her neighbors often spent their evenings singing raucously and making noise in the shared hallway, which made Alina prefer to stay locked in her room. After growing up in an orphanage, this corner had become her temporary refuge, but offered no more comfort than the cold walls of the institution she'd left behind. The government had allocated a small sum for furnishing, but most of it went to repairs, replacing rotted pipes and patching up the shabby walls. Her prospects were dim, a low-paying job that barely covered daily expenses. Alina was flipping through a newspaper, scanning job listings that only highlighted her limited options. One ad caught her eye, a cleaning position at a nearby business center. The pay was decent for such work, and the commute was just a 15-minute walk. This is my chance, she thought. Carefully folding the newspaper, she stood up, the old furniture creaking under her weight. She rummaged through her sparse wardrobe for something suitable for an interview. A white blouse with a faint coffee stain on the hem and a grayish-brown skirt, the only items that didn't look blatantly worn out. Her fingers searched a shelf for a comb, each movement driven by determination to present herself respectably. In the reflection of a tiny mirror, Alina saw a tired but resolute young woman ready for change. The next morning, she stood outside the business center, its tall mirrored walls reflecting her slight frame. She arrived 10 minutes early, a habit ingrained from childhood. Well-dressed people rushed past, making her feel out of place, but she pushed down her fear and stepped inside. After checking in at the reception, she was led to a small office where the manager, Andrei Borisovic, awaited. He introduced himself warmly, a man in his 40s with a neat haircut and a friendly smile. His voice was gentle yet professional. "Alina, thank you for coming. Let's discuss the details," he said. He outlined the job, maintaining cleanliness in the lobby, floors, and occasionally tenants' offices. Her reserved demeanor and precise answers seemed to impress him. The interview went smoothly, and to her relief, Andrei Borisovic offered her a trial period. "We'll provide a uniform and a pass. You can start tomorrow," he said. Alina felt a weight lift from her shoulders, smiled, and nodded eagerly. This was her first real chance to change her life. But from the first days, it became clear that working at the business center required not just diligence, but patience. Her colleagues and office workers barely noticed her, which sometimes made the job easier, but often reminded her how invisible she was. One day, she overheard two men talking about how it must be tough to be such a plain girl. She tried not to react, but the sting of loneliness grew sharper. On the top floor, in an office with panoramic windows, three young men idled away their time. Sergei, the son of a prominent businessman, exuded arrogance. He proposed a bet to his friends. "See that janitor on the parking lot? I bet I can make him fall if I scare him. $1,000 on the line." His friends laughed and took the bet. Smirking, Sergei stepped onto the balcony, pressed his car key fob, and his sports car roared to life. The startled elderly man stumbled and fell, sparking laughter among the group. Another win. Sergei crowed, shaking hands with his friends. But then the office door swung open, and Vladimir Sergeyevich, Sergei's father, appeared, a man with gray hair and a steely gaze. His presence instantly shifted the room's atmosphere. "Everyone out," he barked. His son's friends left without a word. Alone, Vladimir approached the desk, downed a glass of whiskey in one gulp, and turned to Sergei. "You're becoming a disgrace," he said sharply. Sergei tried to protest, but his father cut him off. "I don't need your excuses. Find yourself, or you're done." The words lingered in Sergei's mind, though his pride kept him from admitting his father was right. For Alina, The job was a test. She adjusted to the schedule, tasks, and even the ill-fitting uniform, which became her badge of survival. She found an ally in Natalia Ivanovna, a kind older cleaner who often encouraged her with warm words. One day, Andrei Borisovich called Alina in. "We're hosting a corporate event," he said. "We need someone for the night shift to clean up. It pays double." Understanding the chance to earn more, Alina agreed, though the thought of working late into the night stirred unease, as if sensing looming changes. The evening came quickly, and the corporate event, which dragged on late, left the meeting hall in chaos. Exhausted from her day's shift, Alina settled into a small staff room with a sagging mattress, a rickety chair, and a flickering bulb, more like a forgotten closet than a place to rest. Outside, employees in glittering attire passed by noisily. Through a crack in the curtain, Alina glimpsed them, some clumsily leaning on each other with champagne glasses in hand. Asterisk for them, it's a celebration. For me, it's just another workday asterisk, she thought, wrapping herself in her old sweater. To pass the time, she pulled out a tattered detective novel, its familiar pages a small comfort. For a moment, in the quiet room, she let herself escape, forgetting the need to return to the hall. As the party's noise faded, she decided it was time to start cleaning. Donning gloves and grabbing a cart with supplies, she headed to the meeting hall, her heart beating faster with each step, fatigue giving way to anxiety. Opening the door, she expected to find only the aftermath of the party: empty glasses, scattered napkins, spilled wine. Instead, her eyes fell on three men still seated at the table. Sergei and his friends, Igor and Danilo, their ties loosened, glasses half empty. One was telling a story that sent the others into fits of laughter. Spotting Alina, Sergei raised a hand, gesturing toward her. "Come in, clean up. We won't bother you," he said with a slight smirk. Alina, eyes down, began tidying the far end of the room, trying to be invisible, but she felt their gazes. Their conversation grew louder and sharper with each drink. "Ever thought about who you'd bring to a wedding to shock everyone?" Igor asked Sergei. "I'd bring the cleaner. Who cares? As long as everyone buys it serious." Sergei laughed, glancing at Alina. Her hands froze on the mop handle. She pretended not to hear, but her cheeks flushed. She knew the comment was about her, but refused to react. "Bet you couldn't pull it off," Danilo taunted, grinning. "Nonsense. Get ready to lose." "It'll be easier than you think," Sergei shot back, raising his glass. Alina finished her work, avoiding their eyes, and left quietly. But Sergei's words echoed in her mind. The next morning, Sergei, hung over, barely made it to a board meeting. His father, Vladimir Sergeyevich, led the discussion on a major new contract. Sergei, trying to stay unnoticed, took a seat at the table's end. The meeting dragged on, talks of strategy and negotiations blurring together. All he heard clearly was the irritation in his father's voice. When it ended, Vladimir called him back. "You think this job is a game? Every mistake you make costs me more than you can imagine," he snapped. Sergei felt resentment boil inside. Tired of being his father's punching bag, he retorted, "Maybe you should stop expecting me to fail," and stormed out. Meanwhile, Alina returned to her routine, only to be approached by Andrei Borisovich again. "We have another event," he said. "Can you stay for an extra shift? It's a good chance to earn more." Alina agreed, knowing the money would help, though the tension around Sergei lingered in her thoughts. That evening, as the business center quieted, she heard familiar voices, Sergei and his friends, up to something in the meeting hall. Their loud laughter echoed through the floors. When she entered to collect trash, Sergei approached, his tone a mix of mockery and command. "Come with me to an event. Pick something decent to wear, and I'll pay generously," he said. holding out cash. Alina froze, anger surging inside. She wanted to snap back, but instead turned and walked away, leaving him stunned. Her mind raced. She couldn't afford to lose the job, but she wouldn't submit to humiliating demands. Natalia Ivanovna, the veteran cleaner, noticed Alina's distress. "What's wrong, dear? Tell me," she asked, placing a caring hand on her shoulder. Alina exhaled, trying to steady herself. "Sometimes it feels like people see us as nothing, like we don't even deserve respect," she said quietly. "Don't let them break you," Natalia replied with a warm smile. "If someone tries to put you down, it's because their own life is lacking." Her words felt like advice, but doubts still churned inside Alina. She knew she faced a choice that could change her life. The next morning, Alina woke with a heavy heart, Sergei's words haunting her. She couldn't ignore the humiliation, but risking her job by confronting him was dangerous. As her thoughts swirled, the staff room door opened. Natalia Ivanovna stood there with a steaming cup of tea. "Drink this, dear," she said softly, setting it on the table. "I know you're facing a tough choice, but sometimes you need to see things from another angle." Alina nodded gratefully, the warm drink calming her. Natalia sat beside her, watching closely. "If you choose to go along, it's not giving up. It's doing what's best for your future," she added. The words made sense, but Alina still felt conflicted. Yet a plan formed. She wouldn't let things stay as they were. She'd show Sergei she couldn't be broken. That evening, before the event, Alina visited a small shop and chose a simple but elegant black dress with long sleeves and a modest neckline. It flattered her figure while maintaining restraint. "Here we go," she murmured, studying her reflection in the dressing room mirror, striving for confidence. At the business center's entrance, Sergei froze for a moment when he saw her. The dress, her natural beauty, and her steady gaze stripped away his usual bravado. "You look good," he said, trying to sound casual, though his voice betrayed unease. Alina nodded without responding, signaling she was ready to play along. They drove to the event in tense silence. The evening was lavish, the hall gleaming with gold and crystal. Guests chatted animatedly, champagne in hand. Sergei and Alina entered together, drawing eyes. Some guests froze in surprise. Well, sneered Artem, one of Sergei's friends approaching. "You actually did it. Bravo." Sergei shot him a dark look, then glanced at Alina, searching for her reaction. She remained composed, which seemed to irritate him more. Later, when Sergei stepped away, Artem sidled up to Alina, his tone provocative. "Listen, girl, you'll go far with your talents." "So what he bought you?" he asked, smirking. Alina, her anger rising, met his gaze coldly. "Excuse me, but I'm not here to discuss anything with you. Focus on yourself," she said calmly. Artem laughed, but backed off, disarmed by her resolve. When Sergei returned, he sensed something had happened, but Alina deftly changed the subject, avoiding unnecessary drama. She carried herself with poise, radiating a confidence that earned nods of respect even from Sergei's harshest critics. After the event, back at the business center, Alina changed into her regular clothes and tried to slip away unnoticed. But Sergei caught up to her at the exit. "Wait," he said, grabbing her arm. "Thank you for coming. I know I was wrong." Alina looked at him but said nothing, her silence louder than words. She pulled her arm free and walked away, leaving him alone under the cold night sky. The next day, tension in the business center grew. Whispers about Sergei and Alina spread like wildfire. Some colleagues looked at Alina with surprise, others with judgment. "I heard she was with him at the party. Wonder how much she was paid," someone whispered in the hallway. Alina pretended not to hear, but her confidence began to crack. She felt trapped in a web of others' judgments, her name tainted. Natalia Ivanovna remained her only support, encouraging her that such gossip stemmed from others' emptiness, not her actions. But even those kind words couldn't ease the growing urge to change something. Sergei, too, felt the fallout. His friends began avoiding him, and his father grew colder and more demanding. At one meeting, Vladimir asked pointedly, "Do you realize this affects not just you but the company?" Sergei nodded silently, but his mind churned with the need to break free from being a pawn in others' games. He couldn't shake thoughts of Alina or the guilt over how he'd treated her. One morning, Alina got a call from an unfamiliar number. It was Andrei Borisovic. "Hello, I just wanted to check in. How are you?" he asked. Surprised that anyone from the center cared, Alina replied curtly, "I'm fine. How can I help?" He continued, "We have a new opening, administrator. Given your experience, I thought you'd be a good fit." Alina was stunned. Why her? But curiosity won out. When she returned to the familiar building, mixed emotions washed over her. She'd once been nearly invisible here, noticed only for the cleanliness she left behind. Now, she had a chance to prove she was more. The interview exceeded her expectations. Andrei Borisovic asked about her experience and mentioned the company needed someone to boost morale among staff. "You're strong, Alina. I see it," he said. "Don't let anyone convince you otherwise." His words touched her, and she realized this opportunity might be worth pursuing. Meanwhile, Sergei took a step he'd long avoided. He visited the orphanage where he'd once found old archives. The place, though unfamiliar, reminded him of a childhood when he still believed he could be more than just a rich heir. In the archives, he found letters from his grandfather, who'd built the family business from nothing. Reading words of determination and faith, Sergei realized how far he'd strayed from those ideals. "How could I betray all this?" he whispered, his eyes on a photo of his grandfather outside the company's first modest factory. He felt a mission not to destroy, but to preserve and grow that legacy. Alina started her new role as administrator. Adjusting to the responsibility was tough. She lacked management experience, but she made up for it with persistence. Colleagues noticed her efforts and began respecting her ability to solve problems efficiently. One evening, lingering in the office, she ran into Sergei in the hallway. He seemed surprised. "You're back?" he asked. "On different terms," she replied coolly. Her calm made him uneasy. He saw a confident, strong woman, no longer someone he could intimidate or belittle. "I'm glad you're here," he said finally. Alina nodded and walked away, leaving him with unspoken words. Determined to make amends, Sergei spent a night reflecting on how to prove his change. He met with his father, Vladimir, who was surprised by the request for a personal meeting. Usually, such talks involved pleas for money or leniency, but this time, Sergei was serious. "Father, I want to propose a new project," he began. He outlined a program to support young professionals and those without experience, arguing it would enhance the company's image and attract talent. "It's a good idea," Vladimir said dryly. "But are you sure you can handle it?" "I'm sure," Sergei replied firmly. For the first time, his father saw a resolve that had previously been just talk. Alina learned of the project through a company email, surprised that Sergei was behind it. When they next met, he approached her. "I want to talk," he said. "About what?" she asked, pausing. "About how I've changed and want to prove it to you," he replied. Alina studied him, sensing something deeper behind his words. She faced a choice: give him another chance or forge her own path. The next morning, Sergei was determined to prove his sincerity. At a meeting, his father asked him to present his plan, a test, as Vladimir's colleagues eyed him skeptically. Sergei stood tall, speaking clearly and confidently. He detailed the program, emphasizing investment in training and career growth for newcomers. His speech was compelling, though the room's faces read. Let's see if he delivers. Alina, watching from a distance, noticed the change in him. He was no longer the arrogant man who'd looked down on her. Though doubts lingered, she couldn't deny he was working on himself. That evening, Sergei approached Alina again. I need your ideas, he said. You have experience I lack. She frowned, assessing him. You're serious about me helping you? Her tone was more surprised than hostile. Yes, you're smart, and I know I can't do this right without you, he said earnestly. Alina hesitated but agreed, insisting their collaboration stay professional. They began developing the program's details, resources, recruits, training courses. Their meetings grew productive, but Alina kept her distance, wary of past humiliations. Sergei stayed focused, avoiding flirtation, knowing one wrong word could shatter her fragile trust. Outside the office, gossip persisted. Artem, Sergei's former friend, spread mocking rumors that Sergei was infatuated with a poor girl who knows nothing of real life. Alina ignored them, but her confidence wavered. Her position felt precarious. The breaking point came when a colleague confronted her publicly. Think you got here just on talent? I heard you've got a patron in Sergei. How far did you go for this job? The words, spoken in front of others, were the final straw. Anger and pain surged in Alina. She turned, locking eyes with her accuser. My work here is the result of my effort and determination. Your talent for spreading vile rumors only shows how little you value yourself, she said coldly. Silence fell. Colleagues, embarrassed, dispersed. That evening, Natalia Ivanovna told Sergei about the incident, outraged. If you've really changed, do something. You owe it to her, she said firmly. Sergei didn't argue. The next day, in front of his father and staff, he addressed everyone, declaring that slander or disrespect toward colleagues would face serious consequences. His words were sharp but necessary. Afterward, he approached Alina and apologized for what she'd endured. Thank you, she said quietly, but it's not enough to change everyone's minds. Sergei nodded. I know, but I'll start with myself. In that moment, a new bond formed, not based on guilt or obligation, but mutual respect. Sergei seemed to have truly turned a corner, showing leadership qualities no one had seen before. Alina felt more confident, seeing her contributions valued and realizing her potential. The project they developed together neared completion. Weekly meetings lost their earlier tension, bringing them closer. Alina noticed Sergei focused less on status and more on real tasks. But skeptics remained. Victor, the marketing head, openly doubted the project's success at a meeting. You expect me to invest in something doomed from the start? He asked, eyeing Sergei. Though irritated, Sergei replied calmly. If you have doubts, suggest something better. This project is for those who want to make a real impact. If that's not you, no one's forcing you. The room froze. It was a bold move, and it worked. Victor fell silent, and the discussion continued. Alina felt respect for Sergei's restraint. The project gained attention beyond the company, drawing journalists. Sergei and Alina were invited for an interview to discuss their initiative. Alina was nervous but saw it as a door to new opportunities. The interview went well. Sergei spoke of strategic goals, while Alina shared her personal journey and the project's potential to help those in tough situations. When asked how they started working together, Sergei paused, then said, I learned that people with different experiences can teach each other a lot. That's the essence of team. Alina smiled, sensing more behind his words. After, he thanked her. You were amazing, he said. We're doing this together, she replied, though she felt something shifting inside her. Vladimir continued to scrutinize Sergei's progress, seeing the project as a test of his son's readiness for bigger roles. One evening, He called Sergei to his office. "Tell me honestly, do you understand what you're doing?" he asked, peering over his glasses. "Yes," Sergei replied firmly. "Then don't fail," Vladimir said, ending the conversation. Sergei left, knowing this was both a professional and personal trial. The project's launch day was pivotal. The office buzzed with tension. Some expected failure, others hoped for success. Representatives, journalists, and partners filled the hall. Sergei, palms sweating, stood backstage with Alina, who calmly reviewed her notes. Her focus steadied him. "You'll do great," he said, more to reassure her than himself. "Just don't forget why we're doing this," she replied, offering a small smile. Sergei spoke first, his voice steadying as he outlined the project's goals. Alina's speech was the highlight, her story of overcoming hardship resonating deeply. The audience erupted in applause, some clapping before she finished. Afterward, they left the hall, tension easing. "That was incredible," Sergei said, trying not to sound too excited. "You weren't bad either," Alina teased, suppressing a grin. Vladimir approached, his expression unusually soft. "Good work," he said to Sergei, then turned to Alina. "Especially from you." His words touched her deeply. The project's success drew partnership requests, but new challenges arose. Alina and Sergei spent long hours in the office. One night, exhausted, Alina reached for cold coffee when Sergei entered with 2 fresh cups. "Reading my mind?" she asked, taking one. "Just know how you roll," he said, smiling. They sat in quiet, savoring the moment. Alina noticed how much Sergei had changed. No longer the shallow man she'd met, but someone driven and respectful. "You've changed too," he said suddenly. "In what way?" she asked, smiling lightly. "For the better," he replied, holding her gaze. Alina felt a mix of emotions she'd long ignored. But challenges persisted. Victor continued to obstruct, and Artem fueled trouble by accusing Sergei of using the project for PR. Alina, furious, knew the accusations could harm their team. Sergei didn't defend himself publicly, but arranged a press meeting to clarify the project's goals. Alina insisted on joining. They presented evidence of the project's success, including testimonials from participants, discrediting Artem. After, under a light rain, Sergei thanked Alina for standing by him. "You'd have managed," she said, but her tone held more than professional support. Sergei felt an urge to confess his feelings, but held back as Alina smiled and walked to her car, tossing over her shoulder, "We've got more work to do." The project grew, attracting international interest. A major company offered a partnership, but a critical file was corrupted hours before a key presentation. Alina, devastated, sat with her head in her hands. Sergei found her and said, "We'll fix this together." His confidence was infectious. They worked through the night, rebuilding the documents. At the presentation, Sergei was composed despite exhaustion, and the partners signed the contract. "You're getting too good at saving the day," Alina teased. "Maybe I have a good role model," he replied sincerely. When Artem tried again to undermine Sergei, Vladimir expelled him from the building. But doubts lingered. Sergei addressed the team, admitting past skepticism but vowing to continue for the project's mission. No one challenged him, and trust began to grow. Alina, watching, felt her doubts fade. Late one night, Sergei approached her. "I was always scared of responsibility, of failing. You showed me strength isn't loud words. It's action," he said. "Let me be there for you, not just as a colleague, but as someone who wants to make you happy." Alina froze, his words stirring her. "You already do," she said, smiling softly. Months later, the project was a company triumph. Sergei earned more responsibility from his father, but his greatest joy was being with Alina. One weekend, in a park, he stopped and pulled out a velvet box. I thought I was saving you, but you saved me. Alina, will you marry me? Tears of joy filled her eyes as she nodded. Years later, they live in a cozy apartment with city views, balancing their thriving project and time for each other. One autumn evening, Alina, in a robe, worked on reports when Sergei returned. Singapore partners, questions, he sighed. Who else would handle them? She teased, closing her laptop. He kissed her forehead. Their talk was interrupted by their daughter Liza's cry. Sergei scooped her up, soothing her gently. Alina watched, warmth in her heart, seeing a caring father. Later, on their balcony under a starry sky, Sergei draped a blanket over her. I used to think success was money and fame. Now I know it's being here with you and Liza, he said. Alina smiled. It wasn't an easy road, but I wouldn't change a step. They embraced their imperfect journey, forging a bond stronger than any challenge. As a car's headlights streaked below and distant laughter echoed, they stood quietly, grateful fate had brought them together. Thank you for listening to the story until the end. Subscribe to the channel and share this video with your friends and loved ones. It motivates us to keep working on new stories every day. Don't miss the next amazing story that's about to appear on your screen. We're very grateful to have you with us. See you soon.